upon us. Anyhow, right about now, we're going to start to get things waxing warm with Dave Martin and the Trade Winds. So please bring them on with a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Caribbean man, the Guyana-Caribbean, Caribbean man, Trinidadian of inception, Caribbean man, I'm singing Mali, I'm singing Kish, Caribbean man, and I'm making medal in Olympics, Caribbean man, and my name is Katanga, and my name is Balagobin, my name is Pereira. The crossing river, the crossing road, Caribbean man, touching every banana load, Caribbean man, a tiny steamer, a flying plane, Caribbean man, planting cocoa and planting cane, Caribbean man, I'm walking in this a clearing land, Caribbean man, I'm playing cello and beating pan, Caribbean man. A honeymooning couple was in a bedroom, packing up the away in the middle of June. And all of a sudden, argument break out. Listen to the bridegroom, listen to him shout. And if that is you get on top, that's the way it must go. And if that is you get on top, don't make noise, shut your mouth. That's the only way it will work. Let that get on top. Sing up, sing up. All right, let that get on top. Tell me. Sing up, sing up. Let that get on top. One time. Sing up, sing up. Two times. Let that get on top. Three times. Sing up, sing up. Well, I hear no people. Somebody fall down. Poop on the floor, and somebody shout out, you're squeezing me hard. Well, this time the lady, she telling the man, and she telling him, you get on top, that's the way it must go. I am your wife, now you know, and she telling him, you get on top, don't make noise. His mother stay shut your mouth. Let her get on top. Dig and dig. Alright. Let her get on top. You again. Dig and dig. One time. Let her get on top. Dig and dig. Let her get on top. Dig and dig. Don't talk about the grunting and the breathing hard. Imagine me outside, mother going mad, quiet as a church mouse, listening to this thing. This time the lady, she starts to sing, and if you hear she said, both are we on top, that's the way it must be. And the husband say, yes, I agree, oh definitely, both are we on top, don't make noise, shut your mouth, that's the only way it will work. Oh, now get on top. We on top, me and you. Sing and sing and sing. All are we. What are we on top? Sing and sing and sing. Now I ain't no people ask anybody, but two of them on top. This I got to see. So down by the keyhole, man I put me eye, and what I saw me feel loud in a cry. Cause it was a man and his wife, and the two of them on top. And I see them in this funny pose. Feel this song. And the two of them, they sitting down on top of a suitcase. It's a Guyana suitcase. They're trying to lose. Them big one. You can put a car inside. What are we on top? Close the blasted thing. A lady came all the way from Philadelphia. She said, I come to hear one song. The song about the guy from San Francisco. So we can do it right now and move on. This is Brother Jones. 1, 2, 1, 2. Brother Jones, come to town and preaching brotherhood. Open up a temple in a jungle far away. Alright. And all the people follow. When he tell them jump, they jump. When he tell them bump, they bump. When he tell them dance, they dance. When he tell them scratch, they scratch. Aye, aye, aye. Aye, aye, Brother Jones, living like a king in those them days. Ruling men and women. And the Yankee money coming in by aeroplane. And Brother Jones, he only counted. When he tell them rise, when he tell them sleep, sleep. When he tell them shake, shake. When he tell them soar, soar. Vibration from bad and people want to leave. Oh yeah, a Brother Jones falling. Let me tell you people, when I rise, you rise with me. Alright. When I fall, all of you falling. When he tell them move, they move. When he tell them groove, they groove. When
Yes. Good evening to you. Our own Dave Martin and the Trade Winds. Our own Dave Martin and the Trade Winds. Brother Jones. Jones Tongue, he talking about there. Oh boy, Brother Jones. Dave Martin and the Trade Winds. Treasure of Guyana. A treasure of Guyana. Beautiful sound, beautiful person, really flying the flag of Guyana for a long, long time. Roy asked me if I be born with them songs. I wouldn't expose my age. But I know a little bit. Both of we on top. Ting-a-ling. Danet Booker, good evening. Good evening to you, Paula. Yes, Paula, I'm glad you found me. I told Richie to give you my contacts. I understand you're looking for me. Good evening to you, Raquel Gentle, and all of you wonderful people who are joining us on Monday night, Monday evening, Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning for some of you. Welcome to Politics 101. Oh yes, it's Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to all of you. My sister Lynette Greenwood, Lynette Greenwood of Annandale, better known to us as Annidale. Good evening to you, my brother Keith, Keith Beresford, my music guru. Keith, we have to find some time to talk a little bit. I have been threatening to do a program on strictly on music. I promised Amanda Walton Desir when she was here the last time that we're going to do a special program, music as political discourse, and we're getting close. We're getting close, and certainly Keith Beresford is going to be my first guest. He sent me some music this weekend of our own late, great, Mighty Rebel. From the West Bank. I did an interview with Rebel years ago on Carib Nation, and I've asked the Carib Nation people to go into the archives and see if they can find that interview. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to Lester Beckles. You know, when I hear the name Beckles, and I'm going to give away my age here. When I hear the name Beckles, I think about boxing. When I was a boy, our top boxer at that time was Beckles. I think he was from Plaisance. I'm not sure. Plaisance or Georgetown. So whenever Lester is your family, you know, I had a good big man friend, Mr. Paul from Buxton, Cali Paul. You know, I think some of his children listen to this program from time to time. And, you know, he used to hang out with us little boys, you know. He said, Tully, he never called me by my right false name. He said, Tully, if one fish come out of that trench and say you're part of my family. So Beckers, yes. The boxer. So you all know what time of day it is. Good evening, Palm Halls. Good evening to my brother Carl Wong. Good evening, Wendy Boville, Joel Ward, Zion Bond, Dennis Wilson, Paula, of course. Please, Paula, get in touch with me as quickly as possible. As I said, I told Richie to give you, as they say, my digits. Paula and I go back a long, long way when I first moved to Arizona, 22 years ago. I moved to work here, and Paula was among my very, very first contacts. You know, when you move into these strange places, you come you come. I came with two numbers, two numbers, one for man and one for a woman. And I felt I would be politically correct. I call the man first, Robert, Robert Casey. I got this number from somebody because I came here from California. And I called Robert. I got in here, I think, a Saturday afternoon, and I called Robert, and we take it from them. The second number I had was for people who've now become my family, the Jonases, from Buxton via Linden, New York, and I had Donna's number, and eventually got in touch. And then Paula, we had a big West Indian organization, a Caribbean organization. We put on two really large Caribbean festivals here. And so I remember in those days, Paula and Bibi and Shaiba and all of those wonderful people that I worked with when I first got here to make something of our Caribbean community. Welcome to Politics 101. Please share the link, We are moving on. Always moving on. We are always moving on. Tonight we are going to get into some serious business. I don't normally pay. Well, I do pay a lot of attention to Bharrat Jagdeo. You have to. He's the de facto head of government, head of state. He is everything. He's the face of the PPP, and so I do pay attention to him. I don't stress a lot of him on this program because I don't want to promote the cult of personality. Because if something happens to Mr. Jagdeo, or he decides that he's going to resign, I'm 99% sure that the carnage of the PPP will continue. So I don't like to make politics about the individual. But that is not to say that the individual does not drive politics. And so I want to talk to Mr. Jagdeo tonight. I want to talk to Mr. Jagdeo tonight because he went to a place on Thursday, and which I wanted him to go to. I wanted him to go to that place because I think that is where we've got to settle our issues in Guyana. So our topic tonight, the politics of fear and victimhood, a reply to Bharrat Jagdeo. And we're going to talk to Mr. Jagdeo and in the process talk to all of us because I think Mr. Jagdeo went to a place that if I were him, I wouldn't go. But I'm glad he went there. So share the link and let everyone know that we are on tonight and we are ready to roll. Good evening, Mr. Ben. Good evening, Mr. Hector. All of you, John Jones, the Mighty Rebel, normally perform in Queens, New York for Guyana Day. There we go. We have some history there. Please share the link. Good evening to my sister, Linda Campbell, Coquet, Buxton, Bagdam side, classmate, Roman Church School, Buxton. Yes. Good evening to you, Rhonda Spencer. Please share the link because we are ready to engage in some serious discussion tonight. So Mr. Jagdeo went to the place of the politics of fear, responding to the fallout from President Ali's visit to Brooklyn. All right, so you all know the story. Brooklyn is where Afro-Guyanese are most, African Guyanese, and most Indian Guyanese are in Queens, although you have Indians in Brooklyn and Black people in Queens. But Mr. Ali went to Brooklyn and he visited, and apparently visited some business places. His visit was organized by some people, Afro-Guyanese, African Guyanese people in Brooklyn. And he visited places, and there were some black people who were very complimentary to him, very nice to him. They said good words to him, as we say, and so forth. When the matter was first raised here on this program, I did not know much of the visit. I did not sanction much. Apparently, as a result of the visit, my brothers in New York who were on the ground, Brother Mark and Brother Rickford, reportedly, they've called for a boycott of the businesses which cooperated with this ambush by the Ali people. The people who took Ali in there, and the brothers there on the ground are calling for a boycott of those businesses. And my position is very clear. I'm not on the ground. I have to go by what people on the ground are telling me. And when I spoke to the brothers on the ground, it seems as though there were some people who were working hand in hand with them to expose the PPP, who, while they were working with the brothers, they were underhandedly engaging the PPP, and so forth. This is what is being reported. And so the brothers felt that, they needed to send a signal to people in the community. And that is within it is within Mr. Ali's right to visit wherever he wants to visit. And it's the right of people to object to his visit. I notice my brother from Linden, Young Figuera, has written a letter saying that condemning the boycott call and all of that stuff. And I read it. It's a young man I met a couple of times. I like him. But sometimes, there are issues you want to stay out of. At least hesitate. And I thought the letter is a good letter by Figuera, but Figuera needed to spend some time and to reflect more, because this issue is much more than the president visiting Brooklyn and activists calling for a boycott of those who cooperated with him. On the surface, that's what you see. But this thing is bigger than that. It goes to the heart of our contestation, our political contestation in Guyana. And so I felt young Figuera, I understand his energy, but sometimes, big people's story, little children need to think. And I say this with all respect to the young brother, this issue is a big issue, and you want it to be very careful as you respond. You respond to it. Now, how do I know it's a big issue? It is not just that the president visited and Mark and Rickford and others are calling for a boycott of the businesses that cooperated with him. It's that the PPP has come out swinging. Kwame Mackay, the Minister of Information, first came out, and Vice President, the de facto president of Guyana, spent an entire half an hour and more dealing with it. It says to me, as we all suspected, that this was a deliberate attempt by the PPP at trying to buy Black people. Now, you all know my position here. People have a right to belong to whatever party they belong to, they want to belong to. You want to join the PPP, that's your business, whether you're black, blue, or pink. You want to join the PNC, that's your business. It's your personal decision. You cannot tell people which party they should join. I am very clear on that. And so I am not annoyed or vexed with Black people who decide they want to join the PPP. I have very good friends, Black people, who have been members of the PPP 40, 50 years, 30 years. They're my good friends, and I respect their right as Guyanese to join whatever party they want to join. Similarly, there are Indian people who join the PNC, and they have a right to join whatever party they want to join. So I want to be very clear about that up front. A political party also has the right to try to recruit members from any ethnic group. The PPP has a right to go anywhere in the black community and try to recruit members. Similarly, the PNC has a right to recruit members from among East Indians. People have a right to join which party. Parties have a right to go wherever and to recruit from any group. So I want to say very clear where I stand on that. However, when a political party is going to use the power of the state and the power of the government to go into the opposite ethnic community and to try to buy people of that group as a means of embarrassing the group, I have a problem with that. Let me say what I say again. When the political party of one ethnic group goes in to the opposite community, not to recruit members, not to spread its message, but it goes in there to buy people of that group in order to embarrass the group. So you go in, you want to buy 10 black people from a community, and you're not bringing them into the PPP to join the PPP. You're bringing them, you're buying them over to the PPP so that when you are ready to beat black people, you are going to say, how can I be beating black people? Look, I have black members here. When in effect what you are doing, you're using those black people as a mask, as a cover for you beating people of their own group. And that is what the PPP is about, and I object strongly to that. I object strongly to the view that says black people like money, so all you got to do is go and show them a couple $1,000 and they would bend over. That is the view of some in the PPP, and it has found its way in PPP's modus operandi, their policy. I object strongly to that. I think that is the height of racism. That is to what you perceive as social weaknesses, what you perceive as the stereotype of the group, and then you use that stereotype in order to embarrass the group. I have a problem with that, and I object strongly to that. And from everything that I have seen of Mr. Ali's visit to Brooklyn, it was a means of going in there and showing that the president can go into a black community and be welcomed, and to go into Guyana and use that to beat up on PNC, beat up on black people, beat up on Ipadaji, beat up on anything that is African Guyanese. I do have a problem with that. And so therefore, I agree with the brothers in New York that this visit by Ali needed to be taken seriously. Needed to be taken seriously. Now, Mr. Jagdeo decided that he was, this past week, that he is going to take on this issue. And like I said, I am glad that he has decided to take the issue on. Very glad, because I think it's an issue that we need to talk about.
I'd address. And I may not address it in great detail, so I want to come back to this issue. I started and often at various fora and here at my press conferences, partially talking about the issue. But in light of what happened recently, when President Ali visited Brooklyn and engaged with our people who live in Brooklyn and visited some business entities there, we had this
vile, but not unpredictable call by Burke and Benchcop and the likes of them to boycott these premises. And most people will think that this may be an outlier event, that it's unusual. But there's nothing unusual about what they did. It's part of a pattern, and it's part of the PNC's core philosophy. They were just the latest manifestation, or these calls were just the latest manifestation of that philosophy. And it goes back to what I pointed out several times here at these press conferences. I pointed out that there is a core difference between the People's Progressive Party and the PNC and the AFC, but more so the PNC. That because of the lack of achievements of the PNC, they were in office for 28 years with very little to show at the end of the period. In fact, we were a poor, bankrupt country by the time they left. So with very little to show achievement-wise, they tend to campaign on a philosophy of fear. So fear, and they have to instill fear in the people who vote for them against the others. So the others are coming to get you. They can't say what they have done positively. We too have campaigned with some fear element added to it, because we campaign on the fear of the PNC to rig elections, because that's grounded in a historic reality. They have done this consistently in the 28 years they were in office and tried that again. So the fear of that and discrimination against people too. But most of our campaigns, if you look at them, are entirely positive. They say what we have done for the country. We have restored a bankrupt economy to one of the most vibrant economies in the world, even before oil. We've moved healthcare and advanced healthcare. Per capita income has grown. Businesses have grown in Guyana. Jobs, more people have jobs. We've campaigned more on housing, scholarships, education, healthcare delivery, because we can point to those things. So that's the nature of our campaign, not entirely based on fear. We have restored a bankrupt economy to one of the most vibrant economies. So the fear of that and discrimination against people too. But most of our campaigns, if you look at them, are entirely positive, because that's grounded in a historic reality. They have done this consistently with the others. So the others are coming to get you. They can't say what they have done positively. We too have campaigned with some fear element added to it, because we campaign on the fear of the PNC to rig elections.
Aha. So, the PNC, and by extension, the rest of us on the opposition side, according to Vice President Jagdeo, we campaign on fear. We instill fear of the PPP. And I guess they will say by extension, fear of Indians. They say we instill that in Black people. But here is Mr. Jagdeo admitting that the PPP also campaign on fair. He said, well, we campaign on other things too. We campaign on positive things. But just like them, we campaign on fair. I didn't say it. You all heard it from the gentleman. You all heard it from the gentleman.
Tend to campaign on a philosophy of fear. So fear, and they have to instill fear in the people who vote for them against the others. So the others are coming to get you. They can't say what they have done positively. We too have campaigned with some fear element.
So this, you all hear it there. David Hines did not say that the PPP campaigns unfair. It's said by the PPP leader. Now, if both sides, according to Mr. Jagdeo, both sides campaign unfair, on is right, it means that Mr. Jagdeo is applying a different human value system to the people of the two groups. One is justified, according to Jagdeo, in using fear. The other one is unjustified. The PPP is justified in using fear because they fear the PNC's rigging. Well, the PNC says, and the rest of the opposition say, that we fear the PPP. We fear the PPP rigging, but, you know, we can come to that. We fear the PPP bulldozing our homes and our businesses. Black people home and black people business. It is documented, Mr. Jagdeo. This is a historical reality. We fear the PPP not giving teachers a living wage. Mr. Jagdeo, the court said that. We fear the oil money is being unevenly distributed. And I can go on and on. We fear our boy children being shot down by the police. But according to Jagdeo, the PPP's fears are justified, but the PNC's fears / black people fears are unjustified. What he means is that if we fear that police shooting down our boys, and they do shoot down our boys in their sleep, wherever they can find them, if we fear they bulldoze our homes to do what the government want to do, that is documented in Moko and Linden. If we fear our women being spat in their faces when they do guard work at night, if we fear that our mothers and sisters and fathers who work in the public service are not getting a living wage, and those things are documented. What Jagdeo is saying, that if you fear those things, it's don't bother, because those people whose lives you're fearing about, whose livelihood you're fearing about, they're not real people. They're not real people. So your fears are unjustified. Yes, they're documented, but those people are not real people. They're second-class people. And so therefore, your fears are not justified. But our fear that the PNC rigged elections, thus robbing the PPP and Indian Guyanese of power, those fears are justified because Indian Guyanese are people, first-class people. That is the subtext of what Brother Bharrat Jagdeo is saying. The man admits that his party campaigns on fear. The other party campaigns on fear of the other. Whether you agree with it or not, He said both parties talk about fear of the other, both sides. He's right. Both sides speak about fear of the other. In all ethnic societies, both sides always fear the other. Racial fear and racial insecurity are realities. Mr. Jagdeo is right. The PNC and black people fear the PPP. The PPP and Indians fear the PNC. He's right. When Aubrey Norton goes into an Indian community, they behave the same way that black people in Brooklyn behave when Ali goes into their community. Although when Norton goes into an Indian community, Norton doesn't go in there to bribe and to buy over people. He doesn't have the resources to do that. He's going in to spread the PPP's philosophy. But when he goes in there, I bet you bottom dollar that whoever Indian he talked to or so on, they're in trouble when he leaves. Mr. Ali goes into Brooklyn not to look for votes, not to try to convince black people in Brooklyn to vote for the PPP. He goes in there to buy black people and to use them as trophies to embarrass their group. That is what he went there to do. And the brothers in Linden have a right to respond to that. They have a right to respond to it. Whether they call a boycott of the businesses or they find other ways and means of signaling to black collaborators that that's not the way to go, you're hurting your own group, they have a right to do it. And that is why I'm saying young Figueroa needed to wait before he went out there and fire in. This is an issue, brother. And I'm talking to the young black people who mean well. And Brother Figueroa means well. But this is big people's story, Brother Figueroa. What you did with that letter, you in effect give the PPP some ammunition against your own party and your own ethnic group. You didn't intend to do that. You just went out with a story that is much more complex than meets the eye. And here Mr. Jagdeo is saying that fear is a reality, but black fear does not have legitimacy. It's only Indian fear that has legitimacy. That's what the man is saying. And Mr. Jagdeo, if you go down that road, then you have to talk to me. And you have to talk to people like me. Because black people are people too. And it is that philosophy that black concerns don't matter that makes you and your party refuse to give teachers and public servants a living wage. That when the court says, a co-equal branch of government says, you're wrong, you cuss out the court, but then you appeal the case so that you think that you can go to a friendly court at the CCJ and get the CCJ to do what you want them to do. That's what you're doing, Mr. Jagdeo. That's what you're doing. It is that belief that black concerns are not legitimate, black fear is not legitimate, that drives PPP policy. Because if they felt that black fears were legitimate, they will address black fears. But the reason that they're not addressing black fears is that they feel that black fears have no legitimacy. And you got to talk to the eye. You got to talk to this eye and plenty other eyes. Because we black people are people too. All that we ask for is equality, an equitable situation. In 1961, when Sidney King and others formed a black organization, what did they call it? African Society for Racial Equality. African Society for Racial Equality. Equality. That's what ASRE in 1961 When ASCRE was formed, what was ASCRE's name? African Society for Cultural Relations with Independent Africa. They were talking about an African cultural revolution to lift the consciousness of African people. ACDA is the African Cultural and Development Association. Nowhere in those organizations you see anything anti-Indian in their names. But yet, you all call them racist. All they ask for, all we ask for, is equality. I came into politics in the 1970s as a Marxist, as a Black nationalist, as a Caribbeanist, all of those things, all of those things. There was something in there for young people like myself. There was something in Marxism that I took, and that was the class analysis. Marxism didn't teach me nothing about race and racial inequality. Marxism taught me a lot about class inequality. But it was my Black nationalism that taught me about racial inequality. And later on, as I began to read and study issues of gender, I come to embrace the notion of gender equality. And so therefore, the notion of equality has always been part of our praxis. Mr. Jagdeo, you are not talking about equality. You are saying one fare has more legitimacy than the other fare. And that is in itself racism, because it speaks there about the supremacy of one group. Under the eyes of God, according to you, Mr. Jagdeo, Indians have more right to express their fear in Guyana than Africans have. That is what you're saying, Mr. Jagdeo. And I can't allow you to pass with that. I have to say to Black people that we have to defend ourselves. And if PPP is coming into our community to spread their gospel, fine. If PPP is coming into our community to recruit people in the normal way to join their party, fine. If PPP is coming into our community to catch house slaves and to use them to beat down on the rest of us who they feel are field slaves, slave slaves, then no, we cannot allow them to come into our community to do that. And that is what Brother Burke and Brother Ben Scott are doing in New York. They're saying you can come here. You can come here to campaign, but you come here to catch our people and to use them to beat up their own people. Then we have a problem with that, and we have got to scold our own people. And the brothers have decided one way is to scold them in Brooklyn is to say, we buy from you. You depend on our dollar, and we are going to withhold our dollar if you're going to use our dollar to facilitate the beating up of our people in Guyana. That's what the brothers are saying in Brooklyn, Mr. Jagdeo, and you know it. You know it. They have a right. But if you send your party leader to go in there with a cast net, looking to catch Black people, to use them to embarrass their own group, to embarrass their own leaders, oh no. The brothers have a right to say to you, don't come back. And to say to those who are accommodating you, no, you are not going to benefit from our dollar, our sweat in this community, while you use our dollar to aid and abet the oppression of our people. That's what the brothers are saying. And I say to young black people, watch yourself. Y'all watch yourself. They're always looking because they feel that black people, that all you have to give them is wine, women, and money. That's part of the stereotype of us. And they're going to come with the wine, women, and money on all guys, in all guises, in order to trap us. And the brothers in Brooklyn have a damn right to say to them in Brooklyn, who we go there, our people go there and buy from their businesses, that they are taking the resources that we are giving them from their businesses to aid and abet other people, to beat up teachers in Guyana, to bulldoze black people's homes in Guyana, to deny them contracts in Guyana, to spit in their face in Guyana. What the hell do you all think you all are doing? And if you all are doing it, you all have to be told that it's wrong, and you all have to be scolded. And when Jagdeo comes out to defend people in Brooklyn, Inter Beniba, make Kwashiba take notice. Inter Beniba, make Kwashiba take notice.
It worked well for them in the past. Now, the potency of this tool, which is fear, is being eroded now. It's being eroded significantly. They don't get the same sort of resonance. And we now have to fight it. We've committed ourselves to fighting, exposing it. So when we say that if you're Indo-Guyanese, you don't have a place in the PNC, it is born out of experience. Even now, you hear complaints from Ubraj and all of the others who are in there that they don't have a place in the PNC. If you're Amerindians, you know your experience is also the experience that they voiced in Parliament about greedy Amerindian people, etc. You have no place there in the bosoms of the PNC. If you're any other race, even your people of mixed heritage, you don't have a place in APNU. So people may be tempted to say, if I'm Afro-Guyanese, then this is my party because it caters for my interests. It represents my cause. But that's false too. If you're Afro-Guyanese, you have no place in the PNC. And why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Because that's what I want to get to today. Because many people may be seduced into believing, well, okay, I'm Afro-Guyanese. If they're against everyone else, they must be for me. If they're against Indo-Guyanese and Amerindians and mixed people, they must be for me. And it's an uncomfortable subject that people don't like to talk about often. But they're not really in favor of Afro-Guyanese. And why am I saying this? So APNU wants to create a victim mentality among Afro-Guyanese. You're discriminated against. Just a week ago, Ogunseyi said Afro-Guyanese own falsely less than 10% of Guyana, and they're nearly 50% of the population. A false figure, but they keep perpetuating it. They say it. So do not apply for scholarships.
All right. So we heard the man there. Indian people have no place in the PNC. Amerindians have no place in the PNC. Mixed people have no place in the PNC. And black people have no place in the PNC. Now, the PNC can speak for themselves. So I am not speaking here for the PNC. I'm speaking here as a Guyanese. And I'm speaking here about as somebody who knows something about politics and knows something about rhetoric and knows something about what's behind rhetoric. So Indian people have no place in the PNC. Amerindian people have no place in the PNC. Mixed people have no place in the PNC. And black people have no place in the PNC. How does Mr. Jagdeo know that? Mr. Jagdeo knows it because Ubraj and them say that they don't have any place in the PNC. I never hear Ubraj or any other Indian in the PNC say they don't have a place in the PNC. I've never heard that. Maybe they tell Jagdeo that, I don't know, but they've never said that in the public space that I know of. All right? So this is Mr. Jagdeo's imagination, or he may be saying that they said that privately to him. I don't know. How does he know that black people don't have a place in the PNC? Because when the PNC was in power, they did nothing for black people. Now, let's get to the heart of what this man is saying. If none of the ethnic groups in Guyana has any place in the PNC has no right to exist. I go back to legitimacy. The PNC, which is a leading black party, Mr. Jagdeo is saying that there is no place in that party for any group. So that party has no right to exist. And if it has no right to exist, it has no right to govern. And if it has no right to exist and to govern, then it is representing people who are not real people. People who are second-class citizens. Again, I go back to the notion of the second-class citizenship of African Guyanese. Here, Mr. Jagdeo is saying their organization, their group that they vote for, overwhelmingly has no place in it for others and for them. So something is wrong with black people's head. To be giving their votes to a party that has no place for them. And those Indian people who are in the PNC, according to Jagdeo, they got no right to be in there. Jagdeo is not even agreeing with me that Indian people have a right to be in the PNC and black people have a right to be in the PPP. He's saying to the Indians in there, you have no place in there, get out. He's saying to the Amerindians, you have no place in there, get out. He's saying to mixed people, you have no place in there, get out. And he's saying to African Guyanese, you have no place in your own house, get out. You see the subtext behind what this brother is doing? You see the subtext behind what this brother is doing? This brother is delegitimizing black organizations. Ipadaji. They have done everything to kill Ipadaji. PNC. Everything. Burke. Ben Shop. Everything. Delegitimizing black leadership and black organizations. And you all black people, you all have a right to decide which party you want to belong to or want to support. And I would be a hypocrite if I sit down here tonight and say every black person should support the PNC. No, I know a lot of black people would not support the PNC. But those of you who feel that if you can't support the PNC, you got to crawl on your, you know what, and go and join the PPP. You all are going over there in order to give them strength to beat up your own people. If you're so vexed with the PNC and you can't support them, you have other options. You have options other than that. Give your support to the WPA. I belong to the WPA, so I will urge that first. If you vex with the PNC, give your support to the WPA. Look around and say, hey, I vex with the PNC because they're not too aggressive on defending blackness. Fair enough, that's a fair criticism. But the PPP defends blackness. If your reason for vexing with the PNC is that they don't defend blackness, come to the WPA. We defend blackness, perhaps more aggressively than the PNC. You have options. You don't have to crawl and go over there. If you moving away from the PNC because you feel Norton and them not aggressive enough, they got some of we aggressive. Join we. You don't have to go and give the other side strength to beat up your people. If you give your support to the WPA, if you vex with the PNC, you give it to the WPA, you give it to the AFC. You bet your bottom dollar. I can speak for the WPA. The AFC can speak for itself. You bet the bottom dollar. We will not use your support to beat up on your people. We will not use your support to beat up on your people. If you give your support to the PPP, you are giving your support to a group that is beating up on your people every day, and that is the greatest sin against your own group. So those of y'all who are saying, well, yeah, the PNC is not, you all got options in the opposition. You all have options. So there's no excuse. Absolutely no excuse to say I can stay home or I can go to the PPP. Whatever you vex with the PNC about and you're looking for another option, I can find it in the opposition for you. Because what this man and these people are about is to break up Black organizations, break up Black solidarity, weaken Black people so that they can continue to govern this country in a particular direction because they feel God put them on this earth to do it, and God put the rest of us on earth to follow them. That is what Jagdeo is about here. And we ought not to let it pass. We ought not to let it pass. We ought not to let it pass. Now, Jagdeo said, my comrade Ogunse said that Black people own 10% of the wealth in Guyana, and they're close to 50% Republic. He said that figure is incorrect. Yet, the wizard did not give us the correct figure. Mr. Jagdeo, I know they're going to tell you, David, I've been talking your name tonight. I am challenging you at your press conference on Thursday. If you say that Ogunse is wrong, that Ogunse is arguing, and by extension is part of the WPA, we are arguing that 10% of the wealth belong to African Guyanese only, and they represent almost half the population. And they're only in control of 10% of the wealth. If you are saying that figure is wrong, Mr. Bharrat Jagdeo, David Hines is asking you tonight, as a brilliant economist, please tell us what's the right figure. Please tell us what is the right figure. If Ogunse is wrong, you didn't do it there on Thursday because you probably forget, or you didn't have your notes. Please, next Thursday, this coming Thursday, prove Ogunse wrong by giving us the figures. Give me the figures. Don't say Ogunse wrong. Tell me what the real figure is.
They don't want Afro-Guyanese to get wealthier. So we keep them not owning anything. We made it clear we want our people, those who support the PPP, and we unabashedly say this. You come to us, we'll push you to get positive. We want you to have jobs. We want you to own your own homes. We want you to grow wealthier. because we believe that wealthier people will still support the PPP. I think they believe if Afro-Guyans, why do they want that? They don't want people to grow. They don't want Afro-Guyanese to get wealthier. So we keep them not owning anything. We made it clear we want our people, those who support the PPP, and we unabashedly say this. You come to us, we'll push you to get positive. We want you to have jobs. We want you to own your own homes. We want you to grow wealthier because we believe.
Mouth open, story jump out. We in the opposition don't want black people to get wealth. We in the PPP are unabashed about that. We want Indian people to get wealthy, and we are doing things to make them wealthy. You all see why I just tell the opposition people, fix your narrative right, yeah? You hear what Jagdeo is saying there? He's saying very clear that the PPP want Indian people to get wealthy. Is he wrong? No. He has a right. Indian people vote for you. You have a right to ensure that they get wealthy. There's wealth coming into Guyana. You have a right for Indian people to get unabashedly, as he said. But yet when David Hinds unabashedly say that I want black people to get wealthy, and that one of the ways to get wealthy is circulate your money in the black community, David Hinds is a racist. Here is a man with the power of the state and the power of the government admitting, unabashedly he says, that we want our people, meaning Indian people, to get rich and wealthy. He's not wrong, he's right. He should want Indian people to get wealthy. But as the government must also want black people to get wealthy, and Amerindian people to get wealthy, and Portuguese and others to get wealthy. And at least they should not stand in the way of us getting wealthy. Now, he says that we on the opposition side don't want black people to get wealthy. Well, I mean, that's the joke of the century. I want teachers to get wealthy, Jagdeo. I am challenging you. I know they're going to tell you Taki your name tonight, Bharrat. And I want them to tell you that David Hinds say that he agrees, he wants to move away from the pact, that you are saying don't want black people to get wealthy. David Hinds want to move away. If you dump me in that pack, I'm going to move away tonight. I want black people to get wealthy. Here's the first thing I want you to do, Jagdeo. Call off that appeal on the judge's ruling, call in the teachers, and give them a living wage plus a top-up so that they can get wealthy. We won't start there. David Hinds hereby declare that if Jagdeo put it in the pact of black leaders who don't want black people to get wealthy, Bharrat, I resign from that group. I want black people to get wealthy, and I want you to help me. Here is the first thing you do. Call that nasty appeal off. Call in the GTU tomorrow, the PSU tomorrow. Give them a living wage and give them a top-up on it so that they get some extra money so they can get wealthy. Here is what else I want you to do for me, Bharrat. Because later on you say that we don't want to do anything about black poverty. I want you to take 10% of the money that we got from oil in 2023. And I want you to take 10% of that money and divide it equally among the over 200,000 households in Guyana. Whether it be African, Indian, Amerindian household. I want you to do that for me, Bharrat. David Hinds, resign from your group that you create that don't want black people to get wealthy. I've given you 2 ways in which you can begin to help me to realize my dream My newfound dream, according to you. Later on, he cussed me and said that I now coming up with proposals. Well, but when Apnu was there, I wasn't putting forward proposal. He said that about me later on in the broadcast. We're not going to be able to get to all of that tonight because time is running out on us, you know. But I'm putting two proposals by to you tonight. Stop the appeal. Call in the teachers union, the public service union. Give them the living wage that they're asking for, and then give them a top up on it. That can begin the process of making Black people wealthy. I don't want you to go into a Black community with a bag in your hand and give them $100,000. They ain't gonna get them wealthy. You think that will get them wealthy. They know it and you know. The second thing I want you to do is that there is the cash grant, the cash transfer proposal. Take a bill to the National Assembly, making the cash transfer proposal that Dr. Thomas put forward on behalf of the WPA. Take it to Parliament. Take it to Parliament. And let Parliament sign off on taking 10% of the oil wealth every year from now on and give it to each family. I always knew, and we always knew, that the PPP is unabashedly clear that it wants to dominate Guyana as a party, and by extension, given the fact that it's an ethnic party, that it's going to want ethnic domination. In a class-divided society, the Indian working class is never going to get what the Indian bourgeoisie will take for itself, or the Indian political class will take for itself. But what these racial entrepreneurs do is that they make sure that the poor in their group get a little bit more than the poor of the other group. And that is what the brother is saying there. Unabashedly, he wants Indian people to get rich. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And we want Black people to get rich too. And we are saying, don't wait till we meet in power. If you agree with us that Black people must get rich, start tomorrow, Bharrat. Stop the BSing and start tomorrow. Start tomorrow. You see, I have a different view of Jagdeo. You know, I always, you know, Jagdeo is crazy and he has taken Guyana to a place where we should not be. He has reduced the level of discourse, political discourse. He's really bad for our country. But whenever you want an honest appraisal of what exactly the PPP is doing, go to Jagdeo. Go.
I think they believe if Afro-Guyanese are not dependent on them, then they will so-called stray from them ethnically. And that is precisely why they don't want people to own things, to get a good job. So keep them in this victim's mentality. And look at every one of them who says this. Oh, so Nigel Hughes, Afro-Guyanese not getting, his thing is they couldn't get an oil block. Only Indian people getting oil blocks. He didn't say anything when we have the young, progressive group of young Guyanese women, Afro-Guyanese, who got 2 of the blocks. But that's to be ignored. Now, wouldn't say anything about that, but trying to create this victim's mentality. IPADG is the same thing. They got nearly 500 million from the government. Marcus exposed what's going on at IPADG. They're not helping Afro-Guyanese, but they are saying the government is practicing, collecting nearly 500 million to say the government is practicing apartheid. But they got the money to help people to grow out of it, empower them. So they wouldn't not do that because they want to keep Afro-Guyanese in that state. It is this constant thing. It started off from the early days of APNU with state control. You must go to them for everything. And if you remain poor, then you can always get people to vote for you because you feel a victim of the PPP. So what bothers them most? Why you think they run into South Georgetown when we're doing roads there? They don't want the roads done, because then if the roads are done, people would say, hold on a minute, roads are being done here too. It's not discrimination. We can have roads to walk on too. Why you think that local government elections, they said, Independence Boulevard, we're building that to sell out people land. Not because we want to help people there and to grow that part of the city, but because we want to take away their land and sell it out. This is to keep people in that mindset. So what happened in Brooklyn now, it is destroying that mindset, because Rickford Burke and people like Benchcop, what they've been doing, they've been creating this victimhood mentality, and people like Burke would extort people. He makes his money from arguing. He's struggling for the rights of Afro-Guyanese. He doesn't care one bit about Afro-Guyanese rights. He's been there 30 years, never did anything for people here. But the president shattered a myth that people in Brooklyn don't want to talk to the government. He shattered a myth, and that's why they reacted. So what do they do now? For Afro-Guyanese who dare to want to get wealthy or to own a own home or choose the PPP or any other force or speak out for their own rights, who want to come out of this victimhood mentality, they're subjected to vilification. The luncheons and the others, you remember them all the time. They were slaves, house slaves, stooges, etc. Up to now, they use those names for people because people dare to say, I want to grow out of this victimhood mentality. I want to be part of Guyana and working with all my people, progress personally. Because then you can't fool them that they're victims anymore. They vilify, they shame people, and now they boycott. They boycott your business because you dare to have a civilized conversation with the president of Guyana. Boycott. These are the tools that they use all the time because they want to keep this mentality there. And look at every single one of them. Ogunse, Nigel Hughes, and all of the others. The whole entire APNU. It's always about victimhood. It's something, or you're being discriminated against. So this is, IPADG does this thing. You remember how, what's her name, Ferguson went to Pleasance and a family there in the elections, local government elections, that said, we are supporting the PPP. She went down there and said, no, you can't do this, etc. Because the family dared to make progress. People who come to us, whether they're traditional supporters, we're always positive. We want them to grow. We believe if they're wealthier and we help them to get wealthier or get a scholarship or a job, they would support us. So we don't have a fear for them to grow out of poverty. They have a fear of people growing out of victimhood because then they can't use racism, which is their primary tool of mobilizing. And that is their mortal fear. And that is why they react this violently to all that happened recently. So it's not isolated. It's not isolated. So do they really represent Afro-Guyanese? Although they say that, oh, we are supporting Afro-Guyanese. They don't. They really want to use Afro-Guyanese for political power. And look, when they had the political power, how they used it. So in Linden, who got the land? Who got the land in Linden it's just a few people, not ordinary Afro-Guyanese. If you're concerned about the skewing of wealth in favor of other races, how is it that for 33 years of our independent Guyana, 58 years of independent Guyana, when you had the control over state power, you were running the government, how could you ensure that Afro-Guyanese grew? How could you not? Because they pauperize Afro-Guyanese. They pauperize Afro-Guyanese by making sure they were mainly in the public sector. If you look at 1990 and 1992, the average salary in the public sector was $25 US by pauperizing a large amount of Afro-Guyanese when they were in office. They didn't help much in the period in 2015 too. So you had 33 years of control over the executive and 36 years of control over the parliament, basically, because from 2012 to 2015, they had a one-seat majority. 36 years of our 58 years, they had control over the parliament. How did they use this in favor of Afro-Guyanese? The entire country, including the lives of many Afro-Guyanese, was destroyed. And so we need to go behind, for those who may be tempted to believe, oh, if they hate everyone else, all the other races, they may love us. It's not so. We want to keep people in bondage. So when Ogunse says, we want to give a few handouts to the organizations to keep them under control and calling people disparaging names directly, it's not the handout, it's the scholarship too. We are trying to change people's lives, all of our people, every single race, every single religion, because we see them not just as Guyanese, but potential supporters of the PPP. We want them to get wealthier, to get a job. So then we would argue, we're in government when you got this, so vote for the PPP. That's what we are campaigning on, trying to grow people's lives, not keep them down, negative all the time. So it is, I'm going to say, it's not that, it's the scholarships, it's the jobs, it's the land that were allocated. Just look at the last 4 years and you will see it's not handouts to Afro-Guyanese. It's substantive set of issues that will transform their lives. When we return the grant to the children, we did it for all of our children. We're doubling old age pension for all of our people, including Afro-Guyanese and everyone else. But
so, you all hear the man there. We are doing all of this so that they can come and join the PPP. Jagdeo just said that. Whatever they say they're doing for black people, he's not doing it to develop black people. We are doing it so they can come and join the PPP. That is what I am opposed to. I know they ain't doing nothing. But whatever they pretend that they're doing, Jagdeo says because they want black people to go and join the PPP, not that they want black people to get out of poverty. $500 million to Itpadaji in 5 years. $500 million in 5 years. $100 million a year. A budget that is 1.1 million. You give Itpadaji $100 million to develop black people. So we weren't. That's what we weren't. $100 million to develop black people. And Itpadaji not using the $100 million to develop black people, so you take it away. We are $100 million in a $1.16 million, $1.14 trillion. We are $100 million people. We give the black organization $100 million to develop black people. That is what those people think about black people. If you thought that black people were worth real human beings, would you be boasting that you give their organization $100 million and They then develop black people with $100 million. You take it away. It's Jagdeo said that, not David Hines. Jagdeo said it here. You all heard it here tonight. And I didn't play at 2 minutes. We played the whole thing so that you all could hear. So you can't say nobody's misquoting him. You see, he's costing the PNC. But he's going after Nigel Hughes, who's not PNC. He's going after Ogunse, who's not PNC. He's going after Burke and Benchop, who are not PNC. Because the idea here is not PNC. The idea is to lick down black people organizations and their leadership. That's what the man is out to do. And we are not, certainly I am not going to subscribe to that agenda. I'm going to push back against it by defending black people. I've lost a lot of friends, comrades, who don't believe that my politics should be a politics of the defense of African Guyanese. I'm sorry. I cannot see ethnic, racial discrimination as blatant as it's happening and call it something else and not fight against it. Everything that I've learned in my politics says to me that I have to do that. And I may lose a few comrades and a few friends along the way, but I'm prepared to do that. Mr. Jagdeo has said it here. We're going to continue. We're going to continue dissecting what the man has said. We'll continue dissecting what he said in that press conference. But for now, we are leaving him. He says that we don't want black people to get rich. But I'm declaring here tonight, my brother, I want black people to get rich, very rich. And I want to start now with the teachers. Pay them a living wage. That's the stepping stone to becoming rich, a living wage. Take 10% of the oil takings and divide it to each family. Not just African family, all families. Do those two things. Do those two things and demonstrate that you are not like we. You want black people to get rich. You want to go in the black community and pick out one or two black people and shove some handouts in their face and tell them that you want them to get rich. That's what you want. You want to use that to get them to go over to your party, not to join your party and play an important role in your party. You want them to go over there to help you to beat up their fellow brothers and sisters. That's what you're about. In 1959, the PPP voted out all the black people from their executive. All the black people, all of them got voted out. Guyana wrote a column in the New Nation, and that's it. They rot in the PPP. They voted out all the black people. When Jagan came back into the country, he had to squash the elections. And he said Guyana should know why he quashed the elections. Because it's shameful they vote out all the black people. And what they continue to do is they continue to put one or two black people in positions, but they don't wield the power. If I am going to join the PPP, I'm not joining the PPP to play sport. I'm going in there to join the PPP in order to defend black people, because I know I'm going into an Indian party whose policy is not about black people. And if I, as a black person, going there, I'm going in there to get a black agenda, a black developmental agenda. Can any of the black leaders in the PPP show us that they have presented a proposal to the PPP executive or the PPP government for black empowerment? Let any one of the black people, I challenge them to show where they have proposed to the PPP a program for black development. They're not representing black people there. They're representing themselves. I would be glad if they can represent black people. They represent themselves. I hear Luncheon. I heard Luncheon used to make some whispers about developing some kind of initiative for black people. I heard that unofficially. But officially, none of those black people in the PPP has ever come out openly, whether individually or as a caucus, and say, we are putting to our party and our government a proposal for empowerment of African Guyanese. And they like to tell people like me that I don't speak for black people. As I said, I don't speak for black people, I speak for blackness. I speak for black dignity. I speak for black equality. I speak for black pride. I speak for black empowerment. And that's what you all don't want to hear. You all don't want those of us who have a voice to speak for black people. You all want us to chat. The PPP would love if I come on this program every day and talk about the working class and Marxism and all of that, you know. They will love that. They'll say, what a nice Marxist he is. Like, well, he's like Walter Rodney, the false Walter Rodney that they create. But once we begin to talk about race, then racism is exposed. Racist people who are into racism don't like you to talk about race. Because once you begin to talk about race, you then put racism on trial, and they don't want that. As I said, I don't know how Jagdeo feel about black people, or Irfan Ali, or any one of them. I don't know, I'm not in their head. But I do know is what the government think about black people. And I know that because of the way they've treated black people. And they continue to treat black people. And they get angry when some of us raise our voices, not hiding, but said plainly that you're sticking it to black people, and we don't like that. And we're going to fight you on that. We're not hiding to say it. They like when you hide to say it. Jagdeo wants to say unabashedly, I'm quoting him, we are unabashed of wanting Indian people to get rich. But he don't want me to be unabashed about what they're doing to black people. And that to take your knee off black people so that they can get rich. I'm saying to you all black people, you all got to, those of you who still chat, you all got to stop chatting. It may represent a minority, but there's still some black people who believe that we can chat our way around this. No. In the presence of the enormous wealth that Guyana has, ethnic competition will sharpen, and it has sharpened. And every man fight for itself in this kind of environment. Indian organizations have a right to fight for Indian people to get as much. Amerindian organizations have a right to do that, and the Amerindians are fighting tooth and nail. And Africans have to understand that we have to fight as Africans if we're going to get something. Because the other groups are fighting as their groups. The PPP is in power, so Indians have a foot in there. And Jagdeo says, unabashed, if our people come to us, we are going to give them things to make them rich. And black people got to understand we got to fight as a group. We fight as black people today so that tomorrow we can fight as working class and Guyanese people. We fight as black people today so that tomorrow we can fight as Guyanese and working class. You watch other people fighting as their ethnicity, and you are saying you are fighting as, or you're not fighting. We are at a critical point in our history. I hope that in 5 years, 10 years, I can be talking about foreign involvement. I can be talking about a united working class. fighting for the territorial integrity of Guyana. I hope that we can get there. But for now, we have to share the stage. We have to fight for those things, fight for our territorial integrity, fight for the working class, fight for Guyana. But if you are Black like me, you have to also fight for Black people. And we have to fight as a race to secure our place in this windfall Guyana. And Jagdeo doesn't want that. So to the brothers in New York, I know what you are doing, and you all press forward. If there are people in our community who are lying with people who have sworn that they are enemies of Blackness, and if you are cavorting with them, if you are coddling them, then you need to be rebuked. And the brothers and sisters on the ground will determine how you will be rebuked. And withdrawing our money, whether temporarily or not, from you is one way of rebuking you. And if it must be, then let it be. We cannot have people who we are empowering with our dollar, using that dollar, using that position to work against our people. David Hines is clear, very, very clear on that, Mr. Jagdeo. Very clear on that. Very clear on that. We come back tomorrow because we're not done with Jagdeo yet. We're going to spend some time, some more time, going through what that man is saying and to put in perspective where our people are. Thank you all for staying with me another evening, another night, another morning, another afternoon. These conversations, these groundings are important, And we know when we are on the right track, when the dictatorship takes time out to respond to us. Takes time out to respond to us. See you all tomorrow evening. I think tomorrow I'm going to have GHK Lal on, and then Wednesday I will continue my re-examination and examination of Mr. Jagdeo's thing on fear and victimhood.